This post is about this little chap. It's a worm in a tube called Sabella discifera, possibly Sabella discifera. The spelling is in the description. It's a close relative of the much more common and easily spotted peacock worm, Sabella pavonina. Sabella discifera is smaller, tends to have a very long tube in comparison with its tentacle fan, and that fan seems to be blue and yellow in stripes. The tube often blends with the background, especially if the crown is withdrawn, and the crown is very shy. You need to be able to sneak up on it as it reacts quickly to slight disturbances in the water column. Like other worms, the species was initially described from samples. The body characteristics were used in usually preserved specimens. Like many other uncommon or local invertebrates, its appearance in life was unknown until very recently, until we could go diving. Sabella pavonina was sampled in Scilly from pink seafans, where the grey tube shows up against the pink or white background. When samples on identification like this with a photo of the actual animal in life, we can make a solid link between a photo and a certain identification. The identification of worms is a very skilled and specialised business. It was originally taken from pink seafans because pink seafans basically draw the eye of the diver and make it easier to spot the worm. However, Sabella discifera also grows free on hard substrata like here. This is a site called the Higher Ridge Chain Site, which is usually visited for the very long lengths of enormous anchor chains draped over the rock at about 20 metres. Like other Scilly Out Isle sites, it is huge rocks and walls of granite, festooned with life, safe from bottom-towed gear and most static gear such as lobster pots. Here we can see a ledge, and it's these ledges on many of these sites which are really interesting. You could see a fringe of much more current-loving species right around the edge, where there's less protection, and up on the left here you can just about see in this video that there's almost like a little forest of these worm tubes, very slender, quite tall, and all over this area. These, I believe, are Sabella discifera. The photo at the beginning of this video was actually taken from that ledge. Here's some more context. This is another site, and we can again see it. We'll zoom in on this, actually move the camera closer, and we'll actually see it with its tentacle fan out and feeding. You can just see it there in the centre, and you can just see the tentacle fan. They are very small, only about 2 centimetres at maximum diameter across, so that's very small in comparison with the tube, and the tube being grey rather blends with the background. And this looks about a little bit more, get some more context, and we can see just above the plumose anemones here, we can see a few more on this little ledge. So in the Scillies, if you look for it carefully, it's actually relatively common away from pink seafans. Now the next thing to do to be absolutely certain of the ID is to actually go and sample it from here and compare it with preserved samples of the beastie. Here's that first photo again. I don't have many pictures of this beastie, but isn't it lovely? It isn't commonly recorded, and it may be rare, but it may actually be quite common where it's found. I'm sure I've seen it on the west coast of Scotland, but I have no photographs, so I can't prove it. Does anyone listening to this have pictures with the fan showing? I'll be very pleased to hear from you if you could comment. Without the fan, of course, the tubes might belong to Sabella pavonina, which is much more common. The sizes overlap, although the tubes look fairly similar. So that's Sabella discifera.